Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live with Alex Teselsky. Looking forward to talking with you, Alex, because I love talking to business people slash entrepreneurs who have done just great things in reinventing themselves and pivoting not only in this current market, but in the last crash that many of us experienced in 2008, 9, and 10. Just real quickly, for those of you joining, Alex is a founder and artist at Estate of Copper. It's a family-owned and operated copper art company that he started in 2016 in his basement, and now is a network of over 70 dealers throughout the state of Michigan. Joe Biden has your stuff, amongst many, many other people. What's interesting, Alex, about you is that how you've reinvented yourself, which is what I really want to kind of dive into today. And then I'm a big believer that there's no coincidences and how this kind of new career came about. But just to bring you quickly up to speed, you were a finance manager for over 30 years. You are and are a professional photographer. You created a customer retention and a time and success management company that served over 200 car dealerships. You founded high-tech video production company and many, many more. And founded Magnum Sports, a sporting goods store. So I love that you've done all of that and then continue to reinvent yourself and now have this company, Estate of Copper. So welcome to the show, and I appreciate you taking time to be on it. And I want to thank our mutual friend, Amy Whipple at BDO, for introducing us. Share a little bit about just the internal dialogue that you have with yourself on, just being open to the universe about reinventing yourself.
Well, this particular new business we got into, we were building our bar down in our basement, my son and I, and stone and copper. And I'm thinking, boy, it'd be great if we were to just take some of the scrap copper that we had piled up and turned it into some art to hang behind the bar. We built the whole bar with YouTube video. So we went back to YouTube to figure out how we could do this Great Lakes silhouette and hang it behind the bar, and there was nothing on YouTube. And I thought to my son, you know what? If we come up with something, I could just that it would be something I might want. People were watching build this bar, all of our friends on Facebook, and we finally got one of these pieces put together and put it on Facebook. 50 orders the next day, and. Wow. Expecting to sell it. I wasn't trying to sell it. I'm just showing it off, and everybody's watching.
Yeah, that's so wild. I mean, let's talk about the power of social media, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, you kind of. It sounds like you've cataloged a little bit of your journey, through social media, and then 50 orders right away. And what I find interesting about that is, there's people on the internet which we hear about that have 200 followers but can't sell a t-shirt. And it's all about building brand ambassadors of people who want your product, are connected emotionally to your product, buy your product, and then tell other people about the product to then buy it. And so what do you think it was about how you utilize social media so to kind of connect people, so when you really put it up there, these brand ambassadors saw it, started to make it put in order? What was the connection? Not only the beauty of the product, but the connection with it.
I think the fact that it was very unique. There's nobody else in the world that make what we do. Nobody's ever made them before, and I'm a photographer, so I try to capture things in their best light. So that's helped me out quite a bit. Anybody that can study, that's doing a lot of work on social media, the camera skills are very helpful.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it, just getting something out there that's very unique, and realizing that there's a market. And again, with 50 orders, that pretty much sealed up the idea that we got to pursue this. This could be that could be life-changing.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I love that because it's like it was what a great confirmation of a beta test of what you're doing. But I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to dive into being a photographer. I love photography. I've taken a bunch of photography lessons. I love the art. I'm not good at all. I love to really get good at it. But one of the things that I love about photographers is you just have an eye of detail and instincts that a lot of people just don't have. You know, like one could say, well, lighting, or you take a lot of pictures, but a really good photographer just knows the nuances of a picture. And so I just want to kind of dive into that, you know, as an entrepreneur and as a person that's been in business a long time, what are some of the nuances of what are some of the nuances of business and owning your own business that you have learned by just paying attention to the extra details? What are those extra details that people need to, you know, wake up to a little bit more?
Well, the having feedback. Social media will give you a lot of feedback, and did a lot of different shows, and art in the malls and everything. And you can tell people like and what they don't by what they actually open up their pocketbooks to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And what doesn't sell, we learned quite a bit how to put the different. We make this all with acid and heavy gauge Michigan copper, and so it's quite a difficult process. But we found out it worked best by what sold fastest, and we guaranteed all of our deals what they didn't sell. We didn't want them to have anything that they wouldn't sell because we'd be responsible for it. But so it's just little tiny detail things. I work with my wife and my son, and they are very detail oriented, and we work as a team, and they're quite a bit more detailed than I am. But you find out what design to work the best, what color combinations seem to work the best. The process, things that we made a year ago that we were very proud of, we wouldn't even bring to market today because we tried to improve. And it's like you said, it's the nuance.
Yeah.
That seemed to sell. But we're out there all the time. A lot of feedback from us.
Yeah. Feedback is so important. I'm glad you bring up that element because I think a lot of times people have a hard time taking feedback. You know, really taking it to heart and saying, you know, hey, this is out there. You know, give me some feedback. I'm a big fan of feedback. I love feedback. I think constructive feedback is great. I hate when people say constructive criticism. I just think it's so negative. But I think constructive feedback is so well needed. What's a piece of feedback that you have received that maybe was difficult to hear over the last even 30 years, but really allowed you to pivot in a dramatic way any element of your business or your mindset?
Well, I joined when digital photography first came out. I joined this site that was run by Microsoft. It was called Ask the Old Pro. And it's a photography web. And what you do is you'd post your pictures, and it was brutal back then, the early 2000s. You know, there was no filters or anything, and people could say what they wanted to say. And so it was brutal, and you learned a lot about. Fortunately enough, there was enough great artists on these sites that would tell you, you know, this isn't going to work in your photography, and then you watch their work and you hone your skills. But I think if I developed a thicker skin about that. But that's how you learn, and you just keep on practicing. So you finally get an eye for something. But a lot of people say, well, you know, He'd teach me how to shoot a camera on that type of thing. And I'd say, go join. I'd tell him, join these different sites. They'll be brutal, but you join all these different contests and see who wins the contest and why they win the contest. And
Yeah.
that's how I developed those skills, but photography skills. But yeah, it didn't happen overnight. I took over 1 million pictures.
Yeah.
I felt like I was a photographer.
I want to talk about daily grind and hustle, because I think one of the main things that differentiates, once you have a business, to grow a business requires consistent, nonstop, daily execution, and that's the key. So you come about this business, and now all of a sudden you're in 70 dealers throughout the state of Michigan, and so talk a little bit about your commitment to execution to make a lot of that happen, because that doesn't just happen.
Correct. Well, we're fortunate enough now that our problem isn't in selling the merchandise, the product, it's actually producing it, because it's just my wife, myself, and because of trade secrets and everything, we don't plan on getting any bigger than we can only produce so much work. So I'll get up normally at 3 o'clock in the morning to start my day. And I love it. It's not like it's drudgery. I can't wait to get out of bed. And as soon as I wake up, I'm downstairs. So we do everything right out of our home.
Yeah.
So I'll go down my basement and I'll start working on projects. But the dealers that we have, they saw us on social media, and it was all organic. They'd call us up and say, hey, we're in such and such a city, and we'd like to sell artwork. And we don't do consignment; it's all wholesale. But that's pretty much it. We're always we know it takes approximately 10 days for each piece, and it's a 42-step process. And my son is he also works another full-time job on top of what we do here. But him and I are into manufacturing quite a bit, and my wife is very organized. So we just figure as we grow, we will figure out how to make more of the product, but without sacrificing any of the quality of the product.
Yeah.
But most of it has been all from organic, from social media, from our Facebook webpage, pretty much. We've got right now over 20,000 followers.
Amazing. Where do people buy your products?
We have them in shops and galleries throughout Michigan. And if they go to our site, A State of Copper, on Facebook, we have a store locator, so they can punch in their zip code and find out where the closest store is or shop to them. And we make our shops exclusive. There's only one shop, like on Mackinac Islands, there's only one shop that sells our work. Mackinac City, there's only one shop. And Gaylord, there's only one shop, and so on and so forth. So if you go, and that's how we like to, the relationship with our dealers is what it's all about. We just love the people that own these shops. We're like-minded people. They're all hard workers, and they're great people to be around. They're uplifting and energetic, and that's the best. That's my most most fun I have is actually going out delivering product, because I deliver everything by hand. We got a big van. I'll take it to the stores, and
I love it.
Yeah, and then whatever the dealer orders, we promote their dealership with or their shop on Facebook and Instagram. So that's how we promote our brand, and we promote our stores. So if they buy X amount of dollars worth of product, we'll go ahead and boost their store, and it promotes our brand as well. And so we always have ads running all over Facebook and Instagram, and it's all paid for by dealers. It's to bring the customer to their store.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds, as I'm listening to you talk, I can hear some of the, as I said earlier, you founded a customer retention, time, and success management company. And, retention is all about that, one-on-one connection that you have. So I love that you're talking about that you hand deliver everything. And as an entrepreneur who did so many things over the last few decades, what business advice would you give on retention, how to retain a client in today's market? Right, it's totally different today. The world is just different today. So how would you advise someone, how to retain clients in today's market?
I always like to leave my client feeling like they got the best part of the city, best part of the people get what you say, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And so I always try to make the customer feel like they got more than what they bargained for. As long as you do that, I think that much goes for in consistency. Make sure your product is consistent.
Yeah.
Just the quality is consistent. That's one of like we lived close to Frankenmuth, and one of the owners of the Bavarian Inn said that the reason they're so successful is because their product is consistent. So
Yeah.
that's the key thing.
Yeah, consistency. It's amazing, Alex, how many people cannot be consistent. I mean, as a business coach, I'm working with companies, and whether it's an owner of a company, leaders, managers, salespeople, it's amazing how hard consistency is. I mean, if you told someone simply to just say thank you for 30 days, and stay consistent, it's difficult. It's so hard. So I just want to kind of dive into that because you seem to understand the energy behind consistency and the execution behind consistency. And it is, I think it's so critical because consistency in a positive way compounds over time to something great. And so when you look, a lot of times when I'm in companies, you can kind of see kind of where the consistency with so many different things stop, and you can kind of follow the trail backwards and forwards of why things didn't work and obstacles that are going to happen simply because they were doing the right thing but just couldn't keep it up. And so talk a little bit about the discipline and the resilience and the importance of compounding consistency.
Well, the one item you saw in my bio was customer management systems, and that was all. That the genesis of that was I got in the car business back in 1983, and computers were just starting to get up. Nobody, not people had computers.
My dad built our first computer. It was a Heathkit. It was a Heathkit computer,
right?
And he built it. Yeah.
So, got into the car business, and I was selling cars back in 1983. We just had our first child, and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm not the most, and it wasn't the most organized person in the world. Salespeople aren't. But if I realized real quick, if I couldn't show appreciation for my customers after the fact and keep in touch with them, I'd never see them again.
Yeah.
So that's how we came up with that program. We went ahead and I went and bought a computer. I talked to the guy that sold it, and I said, hey, will this computer allow me to keep in touch with all my customers? Oh, yeah. And I said, well, how does it do that? Well, it says, well, you got to buy a program. I says, is there a program? There wasn't one back then. So I hired programmers to come up with the first CRM tool for the car business back in the early 80s. And so pretty soon we had 200 dealerships on that program. It was 2,000 salespeople. But what it did, it allowed the sales connected with their customers on a regular basis, on a month.
Yeah.
That consistency. So you not only the customer are most likely to come back to people that they feel appreciate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that goes in, I think, in any kind of business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And so talk about a family business. I used to have an internet company that I sold with my brother. Those are my dogs in the background. And sometimes working with I loved working with my brother, but there are family dynamics. I used to say to my brother, like, hey, Jeff, can you stop talking to me at a board meeting like I'm your little brother? There's those elements. Talk a little bit about the elements of starting a business with your family. The beautiful part of it and the part you just have to kind of stop and check yourself, because you have to remember that, yes, this is my family, not.
Well, the beautiful part is that I get to work with my family. My wife and I worked separately we've been married 46 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. When we came up with this idea, she was not real excited about it because we were fixing up this house. We were actually buying the house to fix it up and rent it out as a bed and breakfast type of thing where people would rent it. This is close to Frankenmuth, a big log. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's turned into a copper factory. So she wasn't too excited about that. But I was going after this so hard. And again, we were experimenting with everything. And I became definitely allergic to one of the processes, and I ended up in emergency 5 times.
Hey.
So my wife had to kind of pitch in and help out. And so, which I thought was like divine intervention at that time, because we've never got along so great. We worked together day in, day out. Actually, I don't think we've ever got along as well as we do now. We all know what we do better than my wife does things that I could, as hard as I could try, I could never get to her levels of craftsmanship. And same with my son. And I like to feel that there's a few things that I do too, but part of it is training my son how to take over the business eventually. And he's a very strong-minded person, but he's also the hardest working person, and he's an artist.
Yeah.
We try to play off each other's strengths, I would think. And there's no harsh words. Gosh, I mean, it sounds unbelievable, but we know what we got going on here. We know that it's bigger than we just can't stop because there's too much down on us. We've got all these dealers that are out of product all the time, and we just can't say, well, let's just take a week off.
Right.
We just got to get along in order to do that. So there's just and there'll never be more than 3 of us, and unless my son's has kids one of these days and they get involved, but by that time I'll be 100 years old.
That's awesome.
We all enjoy each other's company. We've always been a tight-knit family. Just the fact that it's like pinching yourself and not believing every day what you're doing.
Yeah.
You get to travel. Michigan's beautiful.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And put 60 to 70,000 miles on my van a year, just going to just the best parts of Michigan, just the most beautiful places where they have these art galleries and shops and people are off, and it's just a great frame of mind.
I love it. No, that's amazing. Well, I love what you're talking about and your passion for what you do and the importance of loving what you do. A couple last minute questions for you, Alex. Speed round. Share with everybody your favorite book and why.
Oh my gosh. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
So good. Yeah. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Oh, I made the kids had to read that book.
Yeah.
Junior high. And then I made them read it again in high school. But it was I felt it was the most important to have empathy. A lot of people aren't born with empathy.
No.
You can really, it's hard to teach, but empathy is everything. I think, to know that people need to be appreciated and understand how people see you. And I think is so important,
I agree. The book is amazing. Too. And then my last question, best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Oh gosh. My dad, when the first time I got up to bat for Pony League after being real good in Little League, and the first time I got up to bat, I struck out. And he said, you know, son, Babe Ruth had more strikeouts than anybody.
Yeah.
You know, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
I was just devastated because I was like, my dad was on the road a lot and he didn't see a lot of my games. And first game he saw in a long time, I struck out, and he said, yeah, don't be afraid to fail. So I think that's the best piece of advice. Don't be afraid to fail. Treat every failure as a great lesson, and what not to do next time, you know?
Yeah. It's well said. I love it. All right. Tell everybody, Alex, where they can get your products and connect with you.
Yeah, you can find us on State of Copper on Facebook, and it's got all of it's got all of our phone numbers and all of our dealers. Like I said, we have 70 wonderful dealers throughout the state, and we do an online store. It's called Square Up. It's called State of Copper, and you can purchase our all of our merchandise direct. So.
I love it. Well, Alex, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for sharing your story. I always love talking to entrepreneurs who've got a great background, reinvent themselves, and pivots. My last question is, how can everybody find their inner artist?
Oh my gosh, I think I'm still looking for it, you know? So I think it's just something that you every day you're trying something different.
Yeah.
We try something different all the. We're not afraid to change the whole process into improving our product.
Yeah.
It's either you're either going backwards or forwards. You're never standing still. So you might as well be forwards, you know?
Well said. Well said. Well, I appreciate you taking time to talk with me. Thanks again, Amy Whipple, for introducing us.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. And all the best to you, your business, your family, and have a great rest of the year and a great season.
Oh, thank you so much. Same to you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody, for listening.